Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
Squid Game, Season 1, Episode 4, Stick to the Team, is the episode I am recapping this week. Every week I recap a new episode of Squid Game from Season 1, which just found out that Season 2 has been announced. He is working on creating a second season of the show. So when that happens, I will do the recaps for that as well. But in this episode, we are starting off after game number 2, where they had to remove the shapes from the candy. We have one of the contestants, I guess I should say, number 111, was being escorted, kind of diverted from the main group of players and taken kind of behind the scenes through the different walkways. That's where we left off in the last episode. So in this one, we pick up following number 111 as he's being escorted through these back hallways. You're also seeing that it's more than just, it is a cover-up, because we have another masked person in the control center where the video surveillance is happening, and you see him erasing the video to hide the fact that they are moving this person around behind the scenes. We have back in the barracks, Sang-woo is surprised and relieved to see that Gi-hun and the old man survived the last game. Of course, Sang-woo restricted information that he found out just before. He found out from number 67 that it was going to be a game involving sugar, a candy potentially, and he had these flashbacks to when he was a kid playing this game where they try to remove the shape that gets embedded into these candies, remove that shape as a game. And he didn't share that information with his team. Didn't share it, and number 67 saw that. But in this episode, the teams are going to be a little bit more reinforced. They're going to be necessary because the next game is a team-based game, but we're not going to get to that yet. It takes a while before we get to Game 3, because in this episode, there's a secret game that's about to happen. But first, they have to get fed. So they're getting an egg, a hard-boiled egg, a soda. Only out of the people from the previous game, 79 people died in that last game. So the current total is $34.8 billion, or won, I should say. 34.8 billion won, or $29.5 million, to translate, is what's in the piggy bank hanging above the barracks, illuminating its brilliant green hue across everything. So everybody's getting fed. You see the gangster return the lighter that he used to cheat in the last game. He's returning that to player 212, and she is now been accepted into that gang because she helped him out. And the first thing they do as their gang is that they go, not satisfied with the single hard-boiled egg and soda, they cut back into line and take seconds. So at the end of everybody that had been in line to get fed, 5 people are left because they only made enough for the exact amount of people. Dude fingers, knows what happened, right? The chick that let him cut, she points him out. Then one of the dudes that didn't get anything to eat, didn't get a soda, goes over, starts talking shit to the gangster. Gangster beats him to death. And this is when we find out. That if somebody dies for any reason, whether it's due to elimination or just another player beats them to death, that counts. So you see another name drop off the list. You see the money fill up, and you find out that this has all been done on purpose. This is a planned thing that the Squid Game people have probably done hundreds of times. They understand how people react to different things. It is all about manipulation. They're being restricted with food and drinks on purpose because they know that it's going to cause fights to break out, which is intended. So when this guy gets beat to death, everybody kind of knows that, like, oh, we got to take this team thing up to the next level. You know, I think Sing-woo finally realizes that the team aspect is going to be more important than he had originally thought. So elimination. We also find out that what that that person 111 was doing. We find out that he was harvesting organs. You see him removing an eyeball, filling these bags. We find out also that the person that the cop took their uniform, threw them over the boat in episode 2, I believe, or maybe episode 3. No, it's probably no. I don't know. Whenever that was, that person, number 29, in the pink jumpsuit, people, number 29, circle mask face 29, was supposed to be one of the people in on this underground organ harvesting side plot thing. So because the cop doesn't know that, the cop didn't show up. So there's problems brewing with this underground black market organ removal program that they got going on. But that's what that's why we find out why this guy's been getting clues to what the games are. Is why they're trying to protect him. There's a little, side money going on because, the people that are in the jumpsuits, as we saw in the last one, are young kids. They're just employees. They're just employees doing a job, and they're being controlled and manipulated in the same way. But they're young. They haven't accumulated debt yet. This is like, this is like child labor law shit. Not really, because they don't seem that young, but still, they're like in their 20s. And they're probably not getting paid that much. So they got this little side hustle going on that they probably started years ago. Make sure we get a doctor in as one of the players. And then in exchange for them removing organs, we'll give them clues. But the cop isn't there because the cop doesn't know. And the cop is now, after the last episode, when the square masked guy takes his mask off and reveals his identity, which is a no-no, gets shot in the face or getting shot in the head by the front man. The cop now also has that mask. So he is pretty much, he's the circle face in the sheets and a square face mask in the streets. It's got both masks now. Because you see, when he's going to bed at night, gets under his covers, taking notes, you see the square mask under his bed. He tucked it under his bed because he's still portraying to be number 29, circle 29, when in fact he's also square. Which protects him more because the squares are kind of the ones in charge. They're seem to be the highest level of the pink jumpsuits, right? The triangles are the muscle. The circle people are just the low level employees. So he is now he gets a lot more freedom now that he's a square face. Although it's still, he has to pretend, which is a lot easier to do, to pretend to be a manager than it is to pretend to be an employee. So everybody back in the bunks, now that they saw that you can get eliminated, you know that people are after you now, because the more you can eliminate, the less competition there's going to be. They know there's going to be attack. We find out that it's been all orchestrated. This is a surprise game that does not count in the 6 games and 6 nights. This is not game 3. This is a surprise game that is orchestrated in order to just thin the numbers down So it lights out. All the lights go out. The piggy bank light goes out. All lights go out. Back in the control room with the front man, he's got all the monitors, got the heat signatures on the screens, sees where everybody's at. And of course, despite the fact that Gi-hun and Ali and the old man and Sang-woo, even though they're all like aware of what could happen, and they're like, we need to, if things go bad, we need to meet at my bed. Gi-hun's like, we need to meet here when things go bad, because I think things are going to go bad. And things go bad. A little over 4 years ago, I started The Many Faces. It's an ongoing series of abstract ink portraits. Each piece is improvised. Each piece is released daily. Start collecting now. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/TMF. That stands for The Many Faces. And save yourself 25% when you use coupon code RTS. That stands for The Ray Taylor Show, because that's what you're listening to, and I love you. So I want you to save 25% when you use that coupon code. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/TMF and use coupon code RTS to save 25% when you start collecting one of over 1,600 original ink paintings. By myself, I made them. Support me. I love you. Back to the show. As soon as those lights go out, it's just like screams. You don't know who's being attacked and who's attacking. Kind of in the melee, at some point, they start flashing the light. So the action inside the barracks, you're seeing these little snapshots every time the light flashes on. Right? All of the pink suit guys are all formed and ready to go. They know this is happening. They're on the other side of the giant door that separates the hallway and the barracks. And they're all just posted up, ready to go in. But the chaos and horror is going on the other side. You have people banging on the door as they're being beaten to death with pipe by Sang-woo. I believe that was Sang-woo that beat that woman that was banging on that door. Everybody was beating everybody. Ali picks up a giant thing because they finally all get to Gi-hun's bed, right? Including the pickpocket. She's kind of part of the group. They all get to his bed finally, and Ali's got a big pipe trying to, get all the gangsters away. And they turn the lights on. The guys storm in. All the triangle dudes start shooting up into the ceiling, up into the rafters. Just ending the chaos that they started. That was intentional, that they were ready for, just waiting to go in and just put the pause button, ending the secret game that nobody knew about. But in that moment, you also see, because the square face that was in the hallway ready to stop the secret game is the cop now. So everybody stops what they were doing. They're, hands against the wall or whatever. People who had snuck in knives, like the pickpocket had lost her knife in the fight. The gangster picked it up, so the gangster gets busted with the knife in his pocket. But the cop asked Gi-hun if he had seen, did I write it down what his brother's name is? Let's see, cop asks Hwang In-ho. So In-ho, who's asking, which I assume is his brother's name, he asked Gi-hun if he knew anybody by that name. And Gi-hun's like, oh, we don't know anybody's name. We haven't exchanged names yet. So, of course, after the melee, after the special game is over, then you see the groups starting to share names. And plus there's a lot less characters in the show. So it would have spoiled survivors if we knew them by anything more than just their number, I think. So I think to avoid spoiling who like the final contestants are out of 465 players, they are finally from a writing perspective, a storytelling perspective, it makes sense to wait this long. Even though we know Gi-hun, we know Sing-woo, and Ali, we only know his name because of when he went to his job after being let go from the Squid Game. When everybody voted no, he went back to his job to try and collect this 6 months of back payment. And I think one of his coworkers said, "Hey, Ali." So you knew his name. I knew his name. If you're watching the show, the audience knows his name. He's never told, though. None of the people in his group knew his name until this moment. So we find out, of course, we got Gi-hun, we got Sing-woo. Number 67 is Kang Sae-byeok. Sae-byeok is her name. Old man, he struggles. I think he's struggling for a lot of reasons, obviously mental reasons, but we never find out the old man's name yet, number 1. In the gangsters, because number 212 is being rolled in with the gangsters, and she's trying to sexually manipulate the gangster guy, the main gangster guy, which is number 101. But we find out his name is Jang Deok-su. Deok-su is his name. That's the gangster's name. Of course, Ali Abdul. We found out his last name anyway. We find out number 212. Not until late in this episode, but this is the episode where we kind of find out everybody's name. Is Han Mi-nyeo. So Mi-nyeo is the annoying lady that's just complaining, trying to, she was the first one to beg to get out of the Squid Game, but then voted to stay in the Squid Game. She came back to the Squid Game and is trying to manipulate cheating in games, helping the gangster cheat, and now she's being rolled into the gangster. They go have sex in the bathroom. That's where we find out Deok-su's name, and that's where they make an alliance in that bathroom. Which, I mean, how between Deok-su the gangster and Mi-nyeo, the two probably most untrustworthy people are trying to have trust in each other and form an alliance. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's the number 111, I mean. The doctor was given another clue somehow inside of an egg, but he opens it up. He's in the bathroom. He opens it up, and we don't see it as an audience, so we don't know yet what the third game is going to be in this episode. But the doctor does. The doctor does, and he's been given. And at one point, he whispers in an effort to join, because they have to, for the third game, they have to get into groups of 10. There's 80 people left after the secret game. So 8 teams of 10 have to be formed. And for the doctor, knowing what this game is, he wants to go with the most physically strong. I mean, even Sing-woo wants to have more men in their group because they have two women? No, they had the old man and they had the girl. So he's like, we need men. We can't have this. But the doctor uses what he knows, whispers it to the gangster in order to let him into the thing. And to go back to it, the secret game pretty much ended with the old man on top of the highest bunk, just screaming and begging for it to stop. Screaming and begging on the highest bunk, and then they shot the lights on and everything. So that's how that whole thing ended. The cop asked Gi-hun. They all exchanged names. I mean, the gangster got his leg slit up, so the doctor actually helped him sew it up. in an effort also to join their team, I'm sure. So that night after that, when the cop is back in his bed and we see that he has the two masks and he's under his covers taking notes as he's been, he realizes that the noise, because there was another one of the employees that was making this noise, and I wasn't sure if it was crying at first. It was in the first time we see the cop in the bunks in his room. But in this one, he realizes that the person is coughing in Morse code. So we don't know yet what they're cough. Oh no, I think he did translate it, and I forget. It says something of like, I think it was just saying, "I'm number 29," which would be the room next to him, which is also the person that was like weirdly staring at the cop from the previous episode, almost like he didn't believe that, that was the right person. Like they probably both of them, like number 29, the person coughing in Morse code, is probably part of the whole Oregon black market thing. But he's finding out a little bit more himself in this episode. So yeah, everybody gets split up into teams of 10. Everybody in the group, there's only 5 of them in Gi-hun's group and Sang-woo's group. So they all go out. Like everybody go find one person to bring in. Everybody brings in one person. We have Sae-byeok, the pickpocket. She brings in another girl that she saw, even though Sang-woo told everybody to, make sure you get a guy. But she brings a girl. The old man didn't bring anybody. So, of course, not only in this scene are they short one person, but we saw earlier that the gangster group, Deok-su's group, obviously got rid of her because he knows what the next challenge is, and he knows that she's not going to be able to contribute to their victory. Well, he doesn't think they will anyway. She will anyway. Join Inspired Disorder Plus today. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus to join. Membership includes members-only discounts and deals. You get access to the Ray Taylor Show completely ad-free, as well as bonus episodes. You get access to the complete live painting archive. You also get access to every single podcast ever produced by Inspired Disorder, hosted by Ray Taylor. You get access to Ray Taylor's personal blog, as well as the opportunity to ask me any questions. So if you want to start a podcast, you're into art, ask me anything. And so many more things are being added every day to Inspired Disorder Plus. So sign up today, become a member, head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus and become an Inspired Disorder Plus member today. So she immediately after forming this alliance with Deok-su, we have Mi-nyeo out on her own, and of course, being the last one left, she just ends up joining now the Gi-hun's team, since the old man didn't bring one. So it's great. The weakest team, physically anyway, going into the next game, which they don't know what it is, and then they go, and then we see the amazing looking game. Like all the games so far have been in like this giant like courtyard type of area, giant walls, open ceiling, daylight, like childish painting of the walls. And now we're in like a giant black room with the two platforms for tug of war. So of course, not so good news for Gi-hun's team. However, they don't have to go first. The first two teams chosen is the Gangster Squad and some other team. So you see them go up, rope stretched across to like this. These platforms are like 10 stories up, right? I don't know how tall that would be. These things are tall. You know, big rope, flag in the middle of the rope. All the players are chained to the rope, so they can't just let go. I mean, they could, but they're cuffed to it, so they can't. They're attached to the rope. And then, they wave the flag. The dude shoots the starter pistol, and they pull. And, of course, the gangster team wins. We know one of their names now. We know Deok-su. They're not going to kill Deok-su. He's clearly a big character in this show. So he wins. But we see what happens when you win, right? They pull the thing. They fall off the platform. And they're all attached to the rope. So they're like hanging from this rope. Just all hanging from this rope. And a guillotine that the rope was strung through comes down. And they all just fall to their death. Or almost death. Eventual death. Because if the fall doesn't kill you, the incinerators will. So just this horrific just pile of bodies on the ground after losing tug of war. So, of course, Gi-hun's crew is freaking out. And they're next up. And it's like they walk by the gangster squad as they go up into this elevator that's taking them up. And the whole time, like, they're freaking out. But the old man is like, I played this game so much as a kid. I know the perfect strategy. So it's this slow-mo of them going into the elevator, going up to be attached to this rope. Everything's in slow-mo, and the voiceover is this old man telling everybody his strategy. Right? The strategy that he told them on the way up the elevator, but it's shown beautiful way where it's, everybody's just slowly walking up, and you're seeing them get into the formation that he's telling them that his advice is. So they're listening to him, clearly. And it's a great strategy, because as soon as the gun goes off, like, his thing is just all go vertical. What we're going to do is we're going to stall this out for like 10 seconds, and they're going to fail, because we're positioned, feet vertical, rope intertwined on either side of them. And then when the gun goes off, all they do is lean back as far as they can, push their pelvis to the sky, try and dig your head into the groin of the person behind you and just hold, which is brilliant. Rope doesn't move. Their opponents trying to slippery and trying to pull this rope that is just not moving. And as soon as one of their feet start to slip, Gi-hun knows it, sees it, calls it out. He's the one at the front of the line. Calls it out. And they start pulling. And they start gaining access. Pulling the competitors across. Only up until a moment. And the other side starts to get their footing again. And is now pulling them back. And Gi-hun's team is freaking out because they're losing. They're clearly the weaker of the two teams. They are the weakest team. And their strategy just failed. And now they're getting pulled closer and closer towards the cliff. And Sang-woo has an idea. Shouts out his idea. We need to take 3 steps forward when I say. And that's how this episode ends. He yells out, they take 3 steps forward, and then cut to black. So, great way to end the episode. A great end. I mean, like, the strategy for tug of war from the old man. the drama when it stops working. I mean, it's amazing when it is working, and then it stops working. And then Sang-woo, who is a smart guy, despite the fact that Gi-hun puts him on such a high pedestal because he went to this university, and is clearly playing the game for himself, not giving up any information in the previous game. But he knows he's literally attached to these people. And it is all about the team working as a team. You can't sidestep it. You all have to, it's all or nothing. If you lose, you're going to be a bloody pile of bones and flesh and muscle on the bottom of this warehouse. And of course, it makes sense. Take 3 steps forward. Probably they're going to fall back. You know, all of a sudden they have 0 resistance on that rope. So they're all going to fall. But also, you're running towards the edge of this platform. And then it cuts to black. So great episode. I'm loving that we're getting names now, which thankfully I've gotten better at saying the main characters' names. So just trying to remember the new characters' names. But yeah, great episode. Great episode. And like interesting that they're showing that they have this secret game, which is kind of dishonest, which, doesn't seem to be. Also that you could beat somebody to death and that counts towards another elimination. Like, so there's like what had seemed to be a fair game is clearly to have some fuckery embedded within it. Not to mention the fact that there's a group of the pink suits are harvesting organs underground for the black market. So there is a few things going on. And obviously the cop, Gi-hun, didn't really seem to care that much. Like, it didn't really raise any red flags for Gi-hun when the cop asked about if he knew if his brother was here, and Gi-hun's like, we don't know anybody's name. So interesting where all of those things are going. And also with the Morse code, like that side of it. So next week it will be episode 5, A Fair World, which so far the Squid Game is not turning out to be that fair. So, in a fair world, maybe things would be different. But yeah, that will be next week for Squid Game Season 1, Episode 5, A Fair World. But this has been Episode 4, Stick to the Team, which literally they were chained to each other. They were stuck to each other. But they've also formed more bonds, knowing each other's names, kind of solidifying, going through what they just went through or are going through, I guess, because tug of war, we still don't know. I'm going to guess that the team with all of our main characters is going to survive. I'm gonna guess that we're not gonna have to all of a sudden learn the names of the opposing team that won, but we don't know how it all plays out yet, which is great. So anyway, Squid Game Season 1, Episode 4, Stick to the Team. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at inspireddisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. And follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!